So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
I'm trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
The opinions expressed during this show are those of the individual participants and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of their associated organizations or Lifestyle Radio.
You like music, you like weed, well, we gonna be good friends indeed. This is not much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiba grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio. 420 radio show.
See what you've been missing, Lee?
Yeah, I have been missing it, actually.
Yeah.
So
It's good to be back.
This is the 420 Radio Show. We are live with Professor Lee. Lee used to do our growth segment, and now we have Ross Middleton, Esquire.
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Occasional grow master.
Once in a while.
Ross owns BMA Hydroponics in Belleville, Ontario, Lee. So he knows his shit. And also, so does Marcel. So you might have a little bit of an argument at some point during the show.
No.
No, I don't argue with people anymore.
We debate methods.
Debate methods.
We do
We see, and
as
that's-
educated people.
We may offer alternative suggestions.
That's right.
Exactly.
And what I'm getting at
Different
is...
points of view.
Yeah,
Exactly.
each one of these gentlemen, I'm a novice, I'm just learning. But these three gentlemen each have their own different point of view. I know a little bit about Lee because he used to do our growth segment here. But one of the things that I really enjoy about this man is that when he did his book, he was doing it just like I'm going to do it now, step by step, making notes, and then he put it all together. And then some guy named Jack took care of it.
Right, Jack is my editor. He's actually a lawyer now.
Oh, I know Jack very well.
Jack's becoming a regular guest with us.
Yes,
He was on the show about 3 weeks ago.
I'm actually very jealous of his hair, to be honest with you.
I am too.
I used to have that hair.
Bigly.
I don't have hair, so when I see his, I'm just like, can you donate half of that to me and we'll both be good.
Yeah, I used to have that kind of hair too, man.
You got to be the same blood type, though.
I have gotten to know Jack over the years since he sent me you, because Lee's book was the first book that we got to review from Green Candy Press. So, and now Jack comes on the show as a lawyer all the time. So, which is really cool because I like Jack. Anyways, why don't you explain how you got into this, how you got started, and your original book and all that, and then we'll let the conversation go wherever.
Oh, sure, no problem. Well, I actually started back before in the really dark ages, back before even like California had gone medical, and I was just keeping under the radar and doing my thing, and slowly, progressively getting better and better and better at growing. And I had a bunch of notes, all my notebooks and things that I kept over a period of probably 15 years or so. And eventually I just said, I'm married now. I've got a kid. I'm retired from growing at the moment. I'm still keeping in touch with what's going on in the industry and all, because there's nothing legal for me to do at that point. But I thought I can go ahead and publish now. So I put together a book of my own using my own pictures, my own notes, and I self-published it. And that was called Raising Wacky Weed, which is actually a kind of a funny title. I don't know why I used it. But got into the hands of Macbeth Media, which is Green Candy Press that Jack works for. And they said, hey, we think we can make this into a really good book. So over a couple year period of time, we sat down and I completely rewrote the whole thing. We had professional photographers getting pictures and stuff for us, and we put it into Marijuana 101, Professor Lee's Introduction to Growing Grade A Bud, and it took off. It did really well. It's geared towards the beginner, the person who has 2 brown thumbs, doesn't know what they're doing, and just has a bunch of questions and wants to avoid all the mistakes that I made while I was learning as I went along. And I'm actually working on a new book now, which involves a lot of the new technologies that's come out, all the different lighting systems and growing systems and things that are kind of the cutting edge of the growing industry that would apply to both large cultivation facilities and growing. I'm sorry, you're kind of gargled. Can you hear me?
Yep. You go ahead.
Okay. And so I'm working on that. I've been going to a lot of the cannabis cups and going to private to large grow facilities and touring them and talking to people and doing interviews with manufacturers and things, just getting huge amounts of information. I've just been working on it slowly but steadily for the past couple of years now.
Oh, cool.
Which isn't bad. The first book, took me like 15 years to get done. The next one took 2 years, so I'm right on par right now. But the other thing that I've really enjoyed doing, that's actually been one of my favorite things, is that I'm writing grow advice columns, question and answer columns for magazines in Europe. I'm actually syndicated in a couple of languages now, English and German. And I'm really enjoying that because people send me their questions and I get to help them out and get them kind of progressing forward. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that part. And I'm just going to keep doing it and see what happens from now on. Other than one of the last articles I wrote was actually about how my state here had voted in medical marijuana this last November, which is great for my family. I wrote an article about what that means for my family. My wife is actually qualifies about 6 different times to be a medical patient underneath the law. And so she's looking forward to being able to get off of all the medication she's on and just take some cannabis instead. And so I've been reaching out to a lot of people here that are going to be doing dispensaries and grow facilities and trying to actually get a job with one of them, because I'd rather be doing that than, the current job I have, which I enjoy.
What state are you in, Lee?
I'm in Arkansas. I'm in the Bible Belt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we moved here to help take care of a very sick family member who has since passed away, and then my wife got really sick, and we were waiting to see if medical marijuana would pass here or not. And if it didn't, we were just going to sell everything we had and move to another state and be marijuana refugees. But it passed, and so we said we're going to stick it out for another year and let them get the industry up and running and see if I can get involved in it.
So Arkansas, did you have a measure on the ballot in the last election for medical marijuana?
We had 2 issues on the ballot. We had 2 competing issues, issue 6 and issue 7. And the early voting started. A lot of people were voting for issue 7 because it was more popular. But at the last minute, they decided to remove it from the ballot. And all those people who had voted for it couldn't recast their ballots. So everyone else remaining had to throw all of their support behind issue 6, which did pass.
Wow.
And we're very happy that it did.
Excellent. And they're not screwing around with it like they are in Florida.
No, they are progressing quickly with it. The actual application process to build the grow facilities and dispensaries starts on July 1st. They've already written out the rules and regulations, and
wow,
they're getting ready to go.
Wow, not wasting any time. Like you're this July 1st?
Well, they wrote it into issue 6 that it was required that they had to have certain things done by certain dates, and it would take a 2/3 vote to change anything. They did extend the timeline for writing the general rules by a few weeks just to make sure they got it done correctly. But right on schedule, they went ahead and approved things. They debated some stuff, opened it up to the public, did some final tweaking, and now they're ready to start taking applications come July 1st. And probably sometime this September, October, those will be revealed who got the licenses and permits. And sometime, probably by this time next year, I'll be able to walk into a dispensary.
Awesome.
Are they going to allow home growing? Or
no? That was a big difference. Issue 7 was more popular because it had twice as many qualifying conditions. The taxes were going to be distributed a little bit differently in that people that couldn't afford medical would be given a discount or in some cases free. And third, if you lived more than 20 miles away from a dispensary, you would be able to grow some of your own. But issue 6 does not allow for that. that'll be sometime in the future.
Well, just keep working on it, right? Eventually, you'll get your own.
Absolutely. Kind of like in Canada, they've approved some large production centers only right now. They will allow up to 8, but they're only going to approve for 5 for right now until they see what the market can really bear. And there will be allowed up to 40 dispensaries throughout the state, but they're only allowing 30-something of them at the moment, with a little wiggle room in the future if they need to open a few more.
Wow.
But Arkansas is not a big state population.
No, it's not a huge state, but they did a test, or they did a survey, and there's roughly 500,000 people that would qualify to be medical patients in the state.
Wow.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty respectable number for given the size of the population here. So I think I can't remember how many millions of people.
2.978.
Oh, you looked it up. Very good.
As of 2015.
There you go. So yeah, a lot of people stick here, I guess.
That's about half the size of the Greater Toronto Area, and in all of Canada, we've got what, Marcel, 300,000 people now approved for medical cannabis.
No,
I might be wrong about that. It might only be 200,000. I'm kind of trying to remember. But I mean, I moved here from Dallas, and that has 400 million people in it. So yeah, this place seems small to me.
Yeah. I mean, it's less than 3 million people.
Let me just double check my numbers. But I did want to ask y'all about some stuff that's going on up in Canada that I want to make sure I understand, or at least
go right ahead. You ask us whatever you want, man.
Okay.
We got 2 hours. You fill it. From an outsider looking in, one thing that kind of concerns me is that I see a lot of the dispensaries are getting shut down. They're getting harassed by the police. Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you're getting maybe the same kind of feeling that the government's dragging things out till next year and shutting down all of these small mom and pop places to really clear the way for the larger corporations to just come in and completely take it over.
Ding, 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 ding,
Yes,
ding,
exactly.
ding,
Marcel,
ding,
you want to take that one?
Yes, exactly. And the goal is to have all of the present dispensary owners charged so that they'll never be able to have a dispensary under the new program.
And what do we have for our winner today?
Probably just a pat on the back, but
Yeah, okay.
I'll do that myself.
But yeah, that's exactly what's happening here is they're trying to pave way for the larger corporations which already own the production rights.
Right. I mean, yeah, they were doing that thing where they wanted you to send it, or they wanted it to be sent through the mail and stuff like that, I believe.
Well, they still do that, but we took them to court as patients and won our right to continue growing to the point where they had to come out with a whole new program again to allow patients to grow their own if need be.
Right. Yeah, I was wondering. It's kind of upsetting me because we're in my philosophy, if you win a war, you get to dictate the terms of surrender. But in this case, it's kind of like, okay, you guys won, but we'll take it from here.
But
And they're trying to sort of do the same thing here. You have big pharma and big tobacco that want us to put out like their Monsanto abomination type stuff. And it drives me crazy because, in my opinion, the industry should be more like craft beer, where there's this huge variety of stuff from coast to coast, and everywhere you go, there's something different and something new to discover. But if you go with these just a few large corporations, you're going to get just crap and whatever they feel like giving you, and I just don't think the variety will be there, or even what the patients really want. So it's kind of disappointing, but. Then again, it will be nice to help kind of push our agenda we have down here towards total legalization, to have a nice 3,000 plus mile border north of us where it's legal to walk across and enjoy yourself. But that's just me being greedy.
They kind of pulled a fast one, though, here, too, because although the federal government is legalizing it, they're downloading all the responsibility for retail sales to the provinces. So they might indeed have dispensaries in British Columbia, and in Ontario, they're just going to have a big government-run cannabis outlet. And every other province is going to be different.
Right. But the problem is they're going to run into the same problem that they have in the Supreme Court right now, and that's in regards to transferring alcohol from one province to another. What's going to stop people from going from Ottawa over to Hull and buying at a dispensary, because Wynn won't let them have dispensaries in Ontario?
Yeah, I heard that there's a problem with like transferring craft beer across provinces. So just the thought of something is that they like to regulate like cannabis would be kind of crazy.
Yeah, we're in for a fun ride.
It's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
32 dispensaries. That's how many there will be. I'm sorry, I just looked that up myself.
How many dispensaries?
32 dispensaries. And a lot in counties and cities and towns will be allowed to vote dry if they want to. And I think that the prime real estate will probably be right there on county lines, and especially if there's a dry county next to you, because I'm sure that people will be happy to deliver them into the dry county, because there's no rules against having a delivery service.
Right. I did read an article the other day that where they were discussing, I forget which state it was, but they were talking about having, I think it was Florida actually, and they were discussing the possibility of having a dry county next to one that's not a dry county. I guess dry is the wrong word, but I guess it's the only one we got right now. But that it would actually force the one that didn't want to sell cannabis to sell it, because if they didn't, then they would lose all the tax money to the neighboring county.
Right. That's
right.
what I mean.
I
It's
agree
really,
that
really
votes that doesn't want it shouldn't get any of the tax benefits from the next county over.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's understandable. I mean, they should know that if they're not going to participate in the program, they shouldn't benefit from it.
Beautiful. I'm trying to think of the next thing to talk about.
We could talk about growing.
Yeah, please do. I don't know if anybody's going to want to dial in with a question for us, but we can all tackle it and see what kind of different points of view
It
we
happens
have.
now and then, and not very often. But you know what? There's enough to talk about that we could fill 4 hours. So sure we can all come up with some wonderful topic and argue over it. That'd be great. Ross,
let's talk a little bit more about production in Arkansas. Like, so you're thinking that it might be big corporate producers.
Well, the way that it's been done is they've approved for 5, or there's up to 8 facilities that will be eventually approved, but right now they're only going to give the licenses to 5 large production facilities that will produce the bulk of cannabis. The smaller dispensaries will be allowed to grow up to 50 mature plants, which will basically be there just so they can come up with new breeds or strains, as far as, because 50 plants it's a lot to some people, but to a dispensary that's not a huge amount, especially if you're only harvesting a few plants every week or two with a rotation system. But it's enough. The idea was that it would kind of keep the larger production facilities from totally dominating the market. But I don't see how a company that's producing tens of thousands of plants wouldn't be dominating a place that's only producing 50.
Right. So where do you stand in this, Lee? Are you looking to become part of that corporate culture? Or are you going to try to break away from that and establish a different kind of setup or work towards that?
Well, I haven't lived in the state long enough to be an owner of a dispensary or a production facility. You have to have been here, I believe, for 7 years, and I've only been here for 6. So, and I don't have several $1 million to invest my own capital into it. But I would like to work for either a production facility or a dispensary, just so I can get into the industry, because I've been missing it so much. I mean, I've been living here, and I'm in the industry, and that I write about it. I'm talking to people all the time. I'm traveling. I'm seeing everything. I'm giving advice and whatnot. But I'm not actively growing because I can't. I mean, weed's great, but I'm not going to let them take my kid away or anything like that for it. But if I was living in a state where I could grow, I would. And if it's available for me to get into it here in Arkansas, I'm going to definitely do it. I miss it so much. I mean, imagine if you weren't allowed to grow again. It sucks.
But we went for 2 years. We went for 2 years when we lost our growing rights here, and it was hell.
Yeah, I mean, you just sit there and think, I really wish I was making 75 clones a day or something crazy.
I didn't say I stopped growing during those 2 years.
some people stopped.
Yeah, some people stopped.
Some people officially stopped. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah. Others just outright refused.
Yeah, I mean, I I cut my teeth back in the days when when it was totally illegal and you couldn't talk about it or do anything at all. And I had friends that would come over. They had no idea that that my roommate and I were growing at the time. But they did reap the benefits of that labor. Every time that we would pack a bowl, I would sneak into the next room and pack it full of kind bud, and then sprinkle a little bit of Mexican brickweed on top, and say, "Here, smoke this." They said, "Man, your stuff's so much stronger than mine. Why is that?" I don't know. I guess maybe it's Colombian. I don't know.
It was grown in southern Mexico. What can you say?
There you go.
Nice guy.
Nice guy. Yeah.
Brian used to bitch about the
trick, though.
Mexican brickweed all the time.
That's all there used to be. I mean, I'll never touch it again. There's too much blood in that bud. Decapitated babies and stuff. I can't even think about that. But back in those days, that's all there was, period. Unless you were growing your own, that's all you had access to was Mexican brickweed full of stems and seeds.
Yeah, some people up here, some of the LPs actually ship that kind of shit. So,
I live pretty close to the border. If you actually had the balls, you could go to Mexico and pick up a pound for $50, and then it'd be
down in a
$500
week.
by the time you got to Dallas. But I didn't do any smuggling or anything like that. But it was nice living in a hub where like it all came to your town and then went everywhere in the country because you got some of the best prices right then and there.
Yeah, I lived in Florida for 6 years, in North Florida, Northwest Florida.
There were any square groupers?
Yeah, that's where all the Colombian came in.
Mm-hmm.
We actually,
Colombian came in.
a few years ago, we had Robert Platshorn on, who was one of the Black Tuna Gang.
Yeah, I've got an autographed book from him.
Yeah, and we had two brothers. I can't remember the other brother's name. The other one was named Doug, and one was a pilot, and one was a boat driver. And they used to, they would drop the bricks in, and then the boat would pick them up and then bring them into the shore. Right, back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, we've actually had a few bona fide drug smugglers from the day on talking about their world, their life, what's going on. One guy I would love to have on is buddy that I can't remember his name now, Billy Hayes, who is the one that from he was in Amsterdam and got caught with hash, based on a true story, Midnight Express.
Oh yeah, Midnight.
Oh, yeah.
He's actually touring still. He tours his books, right? And I'd love to just have a chat with him. There's a few others out there that are still kicking, that did the deed when the deed needed to be done, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's I need to interview them quickly. They're all going to start falling off like Mr. Nice did and stuff.
Well, exactly. I mean, and Canada's got some as well.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot you don't know about too. I have two customers at the store. One of them started off hauling backpacks full of Mexican cannabis up the West Coast.
Wow.
Dropping it over the fence between Washington State and British Columbia, and then having people drive it all the way out to Toronto and sell it there. And he built that up into owning an airport in Las Vegas.
Wow.
Where he flew planes into Guerrero, Mexico, and actually got to meet the cartel people, the cannabis cartel people in Mexico back then, and make huge purchases, and actually struck deals, the blood deals, and was flying it into Las Vegas and then flying it into some little airport in Saskatchewan, where he then distributed across the country. And eventually he got busted in Las Vegas and spent 7 years in I guess it was a state penitentiary in Nevada. I don't know if you get over a certain amount of time, it's federal, or anyway, he was in jail for 7 years, got booted out of the country. And wow, the stories he has to tell are just incredible. Another guy was smuggling in hash from Afghanistan, Thai sticks from Thailand, going through Turkey and getting hash out of Turkey, and you're talking about the Midnight Express and all that stuff. Like this guy was living on the edge all the time. He never got caught, and did it for years and years. He was bringing it in like by the ton into Montreal, black hash, through Turkey. I don't know if it was Turkish hash or Afghani hash, but yeah. So, you know, like there's a lot of people out there who are nobodies who you've never heard of that were heavily into all that stuff back then. And you're right. You know, both of these guys are even older than me now.
Yeah.
And they're long in the tooth, and to hear their stories is something that we should probably share with some of the younger people coming up now, because they don't get that.
I'd love to have that generation of people come on the show and tell their stories. I love listening to them. You know, I have a friend who's from Germany who was in the war. You know, back in the war days. I think he's pushing 85 now, and when in his younger days, he had a tourism company, and he used to shuttle tourists back and forth on both sides of the wall, and he would have papers made for people and smuggle them out, right, back in the day under the guise of this tourist agency, and there was lots of that going on with weed as well. You know.
I was watching a show about the prohibition, how it came about, what happened during, how it eventually ended.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there watching it thinking, well, we're kind of living through that right now. We're watching it die off. And I mean, I grew up with like Just Say No and all that stuff.
Yep.
And I'm looking at these stories of people that were bootleggers and smugglers and all that. And I'm thinking we have our own version of that now.
Yes.
And you know, I feel like I'm like a hillbilly that has a still. You know, one day I'll be able to tell my grandkid, yeah, back in that holler, we used to make good stuff. I'd have to change it a little bit. Back in that closet, we used to grow good stuff. You know, but it's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to live in.
It is, and the young folk just don't get it anymore.
They don't get it. They don't get it. Now, on
Back
that
in my
note,
day, we had to grow uphill both ways in the snow.
Back in my day, we'd give anything to go up a hill in the snow to grow weed.
And on that note, I think we're going to take a quick break. We've got some commercials to listen to, including one from the politician and the grow guy and the what else can we call you?
What's that word?
The profiteer.
The profiteer. Yeah, I didn't mean politician. I meant profiteer. And
okay.
What else? All right. Well, listen.
Run my commercial twice. Okay, please.
No.
Okay, just once will do.
Good try, though.
But I want to hear my one. Now, you keep playing Deb's one over and over, and you never play mine.
Hi, it's Deb from BMA Hydroponics. Whatever you are growing, from vegetables to medicinal.
Do you want to talk over
there
it?
it is
Maybe?
again.
Do you want to talk about it? Maybe we can talk over it and listen.
We carry all the brand name products that will help you produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. We offer the largest variety of products available anywhere, and if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com. We can be reached at 613-967-9888, Monday to Saturday from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/BMAHydro and drop us a line at BMA. Our motto is your success is our success.
Hi, it's Ross from BMA Hydroponics.
And now this is Ross's commercial.
We have everything you need to succeed. From seed to harvest to processing and extracting, we carry all the brand name products that will help you to produce, process, and consume high-quality medicine. Our long list of suppliers ensures that we can get all the brands you know and trust. Our knowledgeable staff of qualified growers have decades of experience with home production of medicinal cannabis, and all possess either MMAR injunction status or an ACMPR registration certificate. And if you don't see what you're looking for, just let us know and we'll find it for you. At BMA Hydroponics, our motto is, your success is our success. Visit our store at 404 Maitland Drive in Belleville, Ontario, or visit our website at bmahydroponics.com.
Okay, so now that's Ross's commercial. Which one do you like better? The one that you don't like, we'll delete, and we won't use it anymore. We'll be right back with some Royal Kush Band.
Facebook.com/BMA Hydro.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
It's been a long week, and the boss has been on me. Well, I don't get high at work, but today I'm bored and lonely. Safety meeting in the back room, don't be late. You can keep those dabs for now. Well, I only wanna get a little bait. Maybe we can cut away for 7 minutes. We could medicate without a crowd. It should only take us 1 or 2 good long tokes. I think we can get away with what is not allowed. This is a safety meeting. No need for hard hats. Nobody is bleeding. We're all here for administrative higher learning. Time's of the essence when the punch clock is burning.
Attention associates, put down the opiates. A safety meeting, but you don't need your OHS. We got one rolled, all we need is a no or yes. First one is free, so you don't have to blow your check. Bring your little heinies out to the back. It's break time and we blaze in a sack. We waste time in a haze while we yak about the boss man and all of his crap. We got Mary from accounting, Kush cloud surrounding, only used to lows, eyes red, heart pounding. Larry from HR hit the bat like a boss, but now he's roaming around his office like he's lost on the sauce. Bill the contractor can't contain his laughter, coughing up a lung, I think he ate my lunch, the bastard. Afterwards, we all melt back in, right? The boss says, oh, you guys smell nice, where the hell's my invite? Sorry, boss,
This
next time.
is a safety meeting. No need for hard hats. Nobody is bleeding. We're all here for administrative higher learning. Time's of the essence when the punch clock is burning.
Royal Kush Band safety meeting off their new EP coming out. I don't know when. I'll have to ask Jim. Anyways, so we're sitting here hanging out with our old pal Professor Lee. He's an author. He writes for magazines. He writes his own books. He tells people what to do because he likes that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm annoying.
So Lee, let's.
We're going to continue
can I
our
ask you-
conversation. Well, if you
Ask
wouldn't
me anything you
interrupt
want.
me.
What's up?
Okay. Let me just run a scenario by you and see how you would handle it. Let's say you are you get a consulting job with a startup cannabis producer, medical cannabis producer in Arkansas, and they gave you carte blanche. They said, do what you got to do to make this happen. How would you do that?
Well, if you're talking about a production center, you're wanting obviously to have a very quick turnover. So I would probably lean more towards hydroponics. And I would also make sure that I invest in technology that's not going to die out in a few years. For instance, high pressure sodiums are the gold standard of growing. When anybody comes along with new technology, they say, yeah, but how does it stand up against 1,000-watt HPS? Well, in my opinion, HPS technology has really kind of maxed out. I don't see it being able to evolve anymore. So we need to move into new lighting technologies. And to me, if you're not going to be growing in greenhouses or using any type of natural light, like with a solar tube or whatnot, I would invest right now in some LED technology. These guys aren't paying me, but I think that Black Dog's Phytomax 2 1000 watt is probably the best grow light that there is available in the amount of production you'd get and the amount of electricity you'd save. It's really important that your production is down to down to $1 a gram or less than $1 a gram of finished product going out to be sold. And I think with that type of technology, you can get your costs down, get your production going fast, and just try to dominate as much as you can. So I would lean more towards hydroponics, using LED technology.
So when you say hydroponics, what specific kind of water culture would you use?
Obviously, it does vary from state to state based on what kind of water demands you have. Here we have a lot. Like right now, we're basically getting flooded out at the moment. So I could lean towards anything from say like a flood and drain type tray with maybe cocoa pots on it, or possibly if I could get away with it, I would prefer to do something like a deep water culture, or maybe my actual second best choice would probably be something like more like an aeroponic system where I could just spray the roots underneath. But probably the flood and drain is the most practical in the amount of cost and the amount of maintenance that you have to do, because you have to think about, you have to pay people to go in and constantly clean out tubes and set things up, and if the system breaks down, you're screwed by hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I'd probably go more with like a flood and drain.
Mm-hmm. What about soilless mix? You wouldn't go there?
I would, if I was going to do soil, ideally I would want to do something like subcool super soil, because it's just so good. But the problem with that is it takes forever to produce. If I was going with a soilless mix for like the hydroponic system, I mean, you could use like cocoa core would be fine. But other than that, my favorite product to use was just expanded clay pellets. They're easy, and plus if you sterilize them, you can reuse them and save yourself some money and running costs that way.
And I guess the environmental impact is something you got to consider too, especially if you're using, for example, rock wool, because you only get one use out of rock wool and then it becomes landfill.
Exactly. I mean, you have to do something with the byproducts that are run over. So even with like cocoa core, you've got to get rid of it somehow, and there's only so much composting you can do. So having a reusable product such as a stone or clay would be a great idea, or just having a completely mediumless type system. But that's kind of hard to do when you're talking about larger plants, like having just a collar hold up a plant inside of a spraying chamber. That's
like an aeroponic system.
Things, but it's not good for a larger plant.
Yeah. So you're basically talking about aeroponics there, right?
Yeah, aeroponics. I mean, I find it's great for smaller plants like clones and stuff, but when you're talking about a plant that has like a pound of bud on it, it's just really hard for a mechanical collar to hold that plant up. If you put it in a basket with just some medium like expanded clay pellets or something like that, then yeah, it's fine. It works great. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that at all. You can produce a lot of really good weed that way.
I guess they got neoprene pucks now too that you can use that just kind of secure it in place, and there's no basket at all. And the neoprene pucks are reusable.
You mean like the collars that have a slit cut?
It's like a 3-inch diameter puck, like a hockey puck, okay. But it's made out of neoprene rubber, and it's got a cut going down into the center with a little X in the center. So you split it open and you put the stem of the plant into it. It's like a cloner. I don't know if you've ever seen like an easy cloner unit.
Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. Having like a mechanical collar that holds the plant in place. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. If you have good support holding the plant's structure up, such as double netting or something, or stakes or something like that, then yeah, it can support the weight. But like a freestanding plant would probably sink slowly down into the chamber. At least that's happened to me before. I've tried a lot of different stuff.
I got one for you. We just had a huge corporate license producer was just approved in Hamilton, just outside of Toronto. He's using aquaculture. What do you think of that, using aquaculture to grow cannabis?
Aquaculture is awesome. I would love to have, one of the things I'm doing in here where I live is we're going to get some land where we can have our own greenhouses and homestead type thing going on. and I do want to use some aquaponics for my food production. When it comes to using it for cannabis, you really have to have two systems, one that's going for the vegetative nutrients and one that's going for more of a floral nutrients. And you have to tailor those two all the time to make sure that they're staying, the right parameters for nutrients and all that kind of stuff. It would be great to be able to produce it with just the one system all the way through, but you're not able to kind of differentiate between the two. I think that it's got a lot of potential. I think it would be great. And I would love to see somebody doing something with that around here, especially like a dispensary that has a smaller, 50 plant count or whatnot. I think that would be fun to just go in and look at. And plus, you get fish.
You do. But you got to,
so,
most people, he's using tilapia there. And of course, there are high nitrogen output fish. So you need a high potassium phosphorus fish like a rock bass or something for flowering. And I never understood, like when I met the guy and before he even started, I ran that past him, like how the hell are you going to change your nutrient values from flowering to vegetating? And of course, he'd been a labor union leader all of his life, so he didn't know what the fuck I was talking about.
I mean, you can do it. You can grow a flowering plant with the nitrogen formula, but it's not going to be as productive. And when you're talking about having a facility that's, working on a commercial basis where profit margins count, production counts, and it really gets down to, pennies and pennies count and add up, you've got to be able to tailor it. You've got to be able to adjust it. Otherwise, you will go under.
I've seen videos of facilities where they have a huge fish tank and the water just circulates and it catches whatever it needs to catch it. But the water circulates out of the fish tank, down the hose, into the plant, I guess.
Through a filter. It goes through a filter.
Well, however it does, but it goes down into it and it just keeps circulating and circulating. It's like a complete ecosystem, really.
Yep. That's exactly what it is. The fish waste product is the fertilizer for the plants, and the plants clean the water and reintroduce that back into the fish environment. So the fish are happy and healthy with a clean environment, and the plants are getting all the nutrients they need.
And they're doing that with tilapia.
And they have to use those filters to get the uric acid out because they don't only poo, they also pee.
Yes.
And that's not good for the water.
And you don't want pee tasting pot.
That's right. Tastes like piss.
You just want the poo, not the pee. You want the number one, not the number two.
Cat piss. Oh, it's fish piss.
Yeah.
I've got a friend of mine who's building an aquaponics system in his apartment. It's a really small scale, and it's just for growing like some herbs and stuff for his kitchen. But I'm waiting to see what happens with him, and because he's just trying to figure it out, and I want to see all the mistakes he makes because it'll be kind of entertaining.
Instead of going in and helping him, I just wait to see what he does.
Oh yeah, I mean we have
so I can laugh.
Great saying. Whenever we let the other person down, we said, "Hey, you screwed up. You trusted me." So
breaking news: Deb just gave me some ice cream.
Oh man! Now I have to go to the store.
Great, now I need to get some ice cream.
It's been a hot day here today, so
yeah, I'll just go to the freezer.
You shut up, Marcel.
Boasters, boasters, both of you.
This isn't infused ice cream.
You're both boasters.
Just shut up.
Yep, you shut up.
Why don't you have some infused ice cream? It's so much better for you.
Because somebody here refuses to infuse this.
There's no infusation.
How do you do it? Well, if you tell me how to do it, I'll do it.
I told you. Once I get the money in my bank account, I'll give you the recipe, buddy.
And then you just need an ice cream maker and the ingredients, and you're good to go.
Do you take Diners Club?
You need the recipe. And no. Does anybody even take Diners Club anymore?
I've got one that expired in, I think it was 1992. Would that work?
Yeah, no.
No.
That's like owning a members only jacket.
And being the only one with one.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sitting here, I'm staring at like a stack of magazines. I just remembered something. You mind if I annoy my editor real quick?
No, you go right ahead.
Help yourself, please.
This is for Sam, my editor at Weed World. we were talking about it would be cheaper to send me to Jamaica next time for the Cannabis Cup because I live in the southeastern states as opposed to flying someone out from the UK. I was not joking. I really meant that, Sam. So that's all I wanted to say.
All right.
And Sam, if you're listening, he's right. He's totally right.
And
it would
Sam,
be cheaper, but he doesn't really need to go.
if you're still listening, we're looking for sponsors.
We have a global audience.
You're damn right we do. We've
I will
got people.
drop her a line with my next article I send to her.
We have people listening in Belgrave, Bolivia, Colombia, Amsterdam, Taiwan. Jesus, it baffles me. Even Russia, Afghanistan. Yep. It's kind of cool.
They all want to know. They all want to know how we grow pot,
I guess. So let's take a break and listen to the news, and then we'll come back and tell them how.
Perfect.
Sure. We'll give them some hints.
We'll give them some.
But they'll have to.
You'll
they'll
have to
get
send
their
a
Giant Club card
check
out.
to Ross Middleton and Marcel Genac and Associates.
Yeah.
Hey, I like the sound of that.
We'll be right back.
That's it. That might be our new consulting firm
There
by
you
the
go.
time we're done.
All right.
Yeah.
Anyways, don't give any more tips, okay? Yeah, we'll be back in a minute.
Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partners Society is a registered nonprofit organization that advocates for access to cannabis as medicine. Political action in the courts at all levels of government established a federal medicinal cannabis program that is second to none. However, our work continues. If you are one of the millions of sick, disabled, or terminally ill people in Canada that does not have a doctor willing to offer medicinal cannabis as an alternative, we can help. We offer appointments every Monday for qualified patients across Canada who wish to access licensed physicians who will evaluate your condition and help you decide if medical cannabis is right for you. Call 613-967-9888 in Ontario or 250-581-1053 in British Columbia, or visit us at our website, www.canadiantherapeuticCannabisPartners.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/CTCP Society.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
Welcome to the 420 Radio Show, and this is your host, Chris Backer, with the news for the week of May 19th. When cannabis is legalized in Canada, it should be sold in standalone publicly operated stores, the head of Manitoba Government and General Employees Union says. Michelle Goronski said the union believes that Manitoba Liquor and the Lotteries Corp should be responsible for selling cannabis products, but that pot not be marketed in the booze stores. You don't want to be selling the two together. You want to be socially responsible. That's the whole idea here, she said, following a public hearing on Bill 25, the Cannabis Harm Protection Act. The MGEU represents more than 40,000 workers, including those who staff government-operated liquor stores. The Palliser government has yet to announce whether cannabis products will be sold in private outlets or in public ones, or a combination of the two. The MGEU said the province stands to lose revenue if it opts for a private system. It calculates that the government could earn as much as $25 million in the first year of legalized cannabis sales from the taxes alone, if it charges the same rate as it does in the state of Colorado. The federal government has set a July 1st, 2018 as the date for legalizing cannabis, and it has given the provinces discretion over the price of the drug and how it is distributed and sold. Bill 25 is Manitoba's first step to set down some guidelines. The bill, when passed and proclaimed, will amend 7 provincial laws, including the Highway Traffic Act. It will make it illegal to smoke pot in a public space or in an indoor workspace, and forbid the consumption of cannabis inside a vehicle traveling on a street or road. It will allow for 24-hour license suspension if a police officer believes the driver is under the influence of the drug and unable to operate a vehicle safely. Users will have to store cannabis in a secure compartment, such as a car's trunk, so that it is inaccessible to the people riding in the vehicle, similar to the rules governing alcohol. Goronski said the union is pleased that the government introduced Bill 25 to ensure that public safety is emphasized, but there are fundamental safety concerns the bill doesn't address, she told MLAs. If the government truly wants to ensure social responsibility, it has to implement a public model for the sale and distribution of this controlled substance, she said. Our members who work for Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries are experts in the regulation and sale of liquor, a controlled substance within the public system. Stephen Stairs, a Winnipeg-based cannabis activist and longtime president of the Winnipeg 420 Organizing Committee, disagreed with the creation of a publicly operated cannabis stores, citing a high startup costs and questioning whether it would eliminate the black market for the product. Those people should have a place in the legal cannabis market, he said of current suppliers, because if not, they're going to feel left out and they're probably going to still have their own customers. However, Stairs said his main concern with the bill is that it does not take the needs of medical cannabis users into account. He said for many, it's not practical for them to keep the product in the car's trunk, for instance. And the amendment to the Public Schools Act as part of the bill would ensure that students using, possessing, or being under the influence of cannabis while at school could continue to face disciplinary measures. Stairs said that that's just not fair. Let's say I'm a medical cannabis user, but I'm a teenager in school. I can get kicked out of high school for using my medicine, he said. At the Connect with Cannabis trade show that happened at the Moncton Coliseum in New Brunswick, many attendees were in for a good time and to learn a lot about cannabis. Crop King Seeds were a major sponsor, and as a Canadian seed company, Crop King Seeds is transitioning into new ownership. Details are scarce and rumors abound as there is unconfirmed speculation they may have been sold to a licensed producer. The 420 radio show will bring you more information as it becomes available. Around noon on Wednesday, May 17th, the Greenleaf dispensary was raided for the second time this month. It was previously raided on May 8, 2017, and in today's raid, 3 individuals were charged and have been released. This information was made available by Tracy Curley, patient advocate and cannabis activist. If there's one word that sums up the Cannabis Life Conference this past weekend, it's normalization. Cannabis business functions in legalish hotspots like Toronto are becoming a dime a dozen for a rapidly burgeoning industry. The vast majority of these events take place at venues long accustomed to the corporate conference lifestyle, such as downtown hotels and convention centers. The Cannabis Life Conference, however, was held at the Evergreen Brickworks. This location is a relaxed, partially outdoor venue that has the reputation of being a wholesome family weekend hangout. Inside, there's a whole new type of green space this past weekend. One where many booths selling a myriad of edibles, pre-rolls, and other goodies lined up to serve attendees. Companies that include Crop King Seeds, Cannabis Growers of Canada, and of course Weed Maps were all on hand to spread the love around and educate those in attendance. Throughout public areas of the Brickworks, throngs of people wearing badges and signs that said Cannabis Life Conference were impossible to ignore, and seemingly anybody who was outside the event for other purposes didn't bat an eye. A stage at the front of the venue had speakers such as former NFL running back and Marijuana.com contributor Ricky Williams, Alan Gertner from Tokyo Smoke, and Abby Roach from the Hot Box Cafe. What Cannabis Life Conference showed more than anything is that cannabis is simply a lifestyle choice, one that easily incorporates with normal everyday living. If it was the intent of the organizers to choose Evergreen Brickworks based on that idea, their statement was a huge success. And military veterans who smoke, eat, or vape as much as 10 grams a day of medical cannabis for chronic pain or PTSD are facing a dramatic cut in reimbursement within days for a treatment that many say is the only one that works. Nearly 4,500 veterans are currently reimbursed by Veterans Affairs for up to 10 grams a day of medical cannabis, but on Monday that will be capped at 3 grams a day. The move affects 2,578 veterans. Their coverage will be cut by as much as 2/3. Veterans Affairs spent $63.7 million in 2016-2017 for medical cannabis, triple the amount spent the previous year. In a statement by Veterans Affairs Minister Kent Heer, he said, "It's not about the dollars and cents." Bullshit! He said the department is following the recommendation of the College of Family Physicians of Canada that establishes 3 grams as the upper limit for medical cannabis while research continues to emerge. The move has angered Fabian Henry, an Afghanistan veteran and the founder of Marijuana for Trauma, an Oromocto, New Brunswick company with 15 locations to help veterans access medical cannabis. Henry, who was medically released from the Army in 2012, says he smokes 10 grams of cannabis a day himself. A couple thousand veterans are sitting at home in anxiety right now, wondering how they're going to survive on 70% less medication, Henry, 37, said from a hotel room in Ottawa. The New Waterford, Nova Scotia native just finished a 5-month walk to Ottawa from New Brunswick. He staged a peaceful demonstration Thursday, the 18th, on Parliament Hill to protest the cut in reimbursements. The reduction means veterans who use medical cannabis will have to pay out of pocket for their full dosage or medicate with less weed. Henry said this is the only thing that works to treat his post-traumatic stress disorder and tame suicidal and violent thoughts. Antipsychotics and benzodiazepines and antidepressants have failed. When Hare announced that the cutbacks in November, an internal department review showed a skyrocketing number of prescriptions and the lack of policy on reimbursement. Hare said the new policy will be reviewed, and adjusted as more scientific evidence becomes available. There is sufficient anecdotal evidence from veterans that it works, which is why we continue to be the only jurisdiction in North America that reimburses, said Hare. Hare said medical cannabis has greatly improved the quality of life, so he's able to work. He says the cannabis doesn't make him stoned because of the strains he uses and the tolerance he's built up over the last 6 years. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia have almost the same number of veterans receiving compensation for medical cannabis. More than 1,500 of them live in the two maritime provinces. That's 35% of all claimants across the country. Veterans who have authorization from pain management specialist or a psychiatrist for more than 3 grams a day can continue to receive higher compensation. So far, 46 veterans, more than half the applicants, have that approval. But Fabian said the wait-and-see assess a specialist can take months. His own appointment is in the fall, and that will lag and leave many veterans in a lurch. In response to complaints, Hare said his department is working with veterans who are having difficulties getting their paperwork together. The department has simplified the authorization process for veterans who have both chronic pain and psychiatric conditions. Now approval from either a pain management or psychiatrist will suffice. Henry is unsatisfied. He is urging the minister to hold off on the reimbursement cutback until the department has finished its own research project on the effects of cannabis on veterans. He said the potential consequences of having veterans run out of medicine should be alarming to the department. The only one medicine that is working has to be drastically reduced and potentially flare up people's PTSD, said Henry. I don't really know what's going to happen. I just know it ain't going to be good. Michael Dwaron, the department's assistant deputy minister, said one of the most effective ways of helping people in mental health distress is engagement and support early and often. He says cannabis may play a role in this treatment, but it cannot be the whole treatment regime. Dwaron says the department provides support to access thousands of mental health practitioners across the country, occupational service injury clinics, and military family resource centers. That's been the news. Peace, love, and hippie shit. Back over to you guys.
Half Springer Spaniel and half Standard Poodle.
And military family resource
So
centers.
basically what you're saying is my dog has shits bigger than your dog.
No, the one, the squirrel is probably
So basically what you're saying is my dog has shits bigger than your dog.
It's 60-pound shits. Now the little white one, that one.
Do you think,
I
guys?
shit
Hey,
hits.
hey, guys. Hey, can I ask a
Now the
question?
little white one.
Or he had started it. We were talking about dog shit.
Oh, we were talking about dog shit off there, and it kind of combined into.
Oh, I thought
on
we
air.
were on there when we were talking about the dog
Well,
shit.
we
Sorry
kinda
about
were.
that, folks.
I was intentionally talking about dog shit on air.
Well,
me too.
We weren't supposed to.
No, no.
I thought that's what the plan was.
We were having a shitty conversation.
But you know what? I will go back to talking about something we were talking
All right,
about
you go right
off
ahead.
air, and that was bananas. And
Bananas, yes.
Lee was just telling us about how where was it they're making ketchup out of bananas?
Oh, in the Philippines for decades they've been making ketchup out of bananas, and they dye it red. You really can't tell the difference between regular tomato ketchup and the banana ketchup because of the spices and the stuff they put in it.
Right.
And I was actually making it here at home. It's pretty good.
Yeah, the Philippines is one of the largest banana producers in the world. They are the biggest producer of bananas in the world.
That would make sense then.
I watched a Vice program about a week ago or so, and they were talking about what's going on with the banana. And there was a back in the 1800s, there was a fluke of nature that produced a banana that could not self-pollinate. And the problem with bananas, and I'm telling this story because I'm going somewhere with it, so bear with me. But back in the old days, all the bananas had seeds in them. So if you bit into a banana, you'd break your tooth on a seed because they were very hard seeds. So when this fluke of nature happened, and this particular variety called the Grand Michel couldn't self-pollinate, so they started to they started to do monoculture, and we all know what monoculture is. It's also known as cloning. Okay, so they would basically take the top off the plant, reroot it, and then keep saying it so that it was that just that one single plant. They kept growing it for, I believe it was something like 60 to 80 years they grew it, and the Grand Michel was a much bigger, nicer banana, and according to what they were saying, it tasted so good it makes the current banana, which is called the Cavendish, taste like crap. So in the 30s, in the turn of the century, the Grand Michel started to develop a disease, and it eventually spread across all the banana plantations across the world, and it killed the Grand Michel. So in the 1930s, these horticulturalists in England, in a greenhouse, developed the Cavendish banana, which is the one that we all know today. And they're all the same thing, and they're all from the same plant. The original plant is still growing in that greenhouse in England. But now there is a disease.
There's a butt.
There's a butt.
A banana butt.
There is a banana bud in that story too. And that bud is, if you've ever noticed, when you go to get artificial banana flavoring, it doesn't taste like any banana you've ever eaten.
Oh, no.
It's because the artificial banana flavoring is from the original banana that died out from that fungus.
Oh, from the Grand Michel?
Yeah, they synthesized that taste, and that's what banana flavoring is. So anytime you have anything with banana flavoring, it's from that original banana, not from what you can buy off the shelf today.
Well, okay. Here's the moral to the story that I was telling about. It's about monoculture, and it's about the longevity of the genetics of a plant. And it got to about 80 years, like I said, with the Grand Michel, and then suddenly this disease broke out, and it spread to all of them like wildfire. And now it's happening with the Cavendish. There's this blight that's hitting the Cavendish, and whole crops are starting to die off. And the Philippines is where it originated, and it's hitting very hard. And it doesn't just kill the plant. Once that plantation has had this disease, you can't even grow bananas in the soil anymore. It actually it infects the soil, and you can't even burn it off. Wow. and fix it. Wow. So now they're trying to develop. They're really feverishly trying to come up with a new variety of bananas. But again, they're going to do the same thing, and it's a mistake that they make over and over, because it's been about 80 years now. It's been since 1930, right? So now, 80 years later, all of a sudden, they're all dying off. And this is a genetic weakness that comes from monoculture. So when you, for example, take a cutting from a cannabis plant, if you try to keep that same strain going, and I think a lot of people will tell you that after 10 years or so, things start to happen to that plant. It starts to fall apart on the genetic level, or what most often happens, as with the banana, is that eventually something discovers that particular plant's weakness, and it takes advantage of that weakness to infect the plant. And then once it infects that plant, because all the others are exactly the same genetics, they're extremely susceptible to it. And the time factor is just the time it takes for that particular pathogen to find the weakness of that particular plant. And I think that's what happens with cannabis too. And Lee, maybe you can tell me what your experience is with mother plants and trying to keep the same strain viable, the same plant, not just the same strain, the same phenotype, that one plant that you loved, and trying to keep a mum and keep it going for any length of time.
How long have you been able to keep a mother plant alive?
For years. I mean, I've had some mixed success with mother plants. I think we all have. They do eventually get worn out, or they get sick, and you can't use them anymore. But that's why I'm a big believer in having like a safety catch, having a seed bank. And a lot of places do that, where they'll have a mother plant. They will take thousands and thousands and thousands of clones off of it, and either they will work that plant to death until it picks up viruses and stuff, and it's no longer really viable, and you can't make clones off of it because all the clones would have the same virus and the genetic weaknesses that are starting to appear. What you do is you rebreed the two mother plants to come up with that mother plant that you had originally developed, and you just label that as the next generation. It's as close to the first one as we could get. I've personally had it to where I've had a mother plant and I kept it alive for a couple of years, no problems, and then all of a sudden I noticed that it was getting a problem with like powdery mildew, and it just pretty much got eaten up all of a sudden. And at that point, I just dipped into the seed bank and tried to find something that was really close and reproduce it. It helps if you know the lineage, if you know what the parent plants were that made that particular strain that you liked so much. But still, with the amount of genetic diversity there is in cannabis, you have to go through a lot of plants to find something that would be similar, unless it's a very stable strain.
And of course, you would never find the same one, the identical same one, unless you had, I mean, even if you had the same strain from that same, and you had a male and a female, and you cross them, you get all those different phenotypes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. It's like the first time I ever had Northern Lights, it was Northern Lights number 5, which meant that it was the 5th time someone had gone through and found a mother plant to produce that strain with. So I'll never know what, number 1 through number 4 were actually like compared to number 5.
And you'll never be able to reproduce number 5 again.
Right.
I mean, not as it originally was.
But on the upside of that is, in my opinion, the only real constant is change, and it's good to have variety, and yeah, it's good to have that kind of comfort food once in a while. But I really like diversity. I really like trying new things. So
I do too. And while we're on the subject of genetics, let's talk a little bit about feminized seeds.
Sure.
I personally won't use feminized seeds. I did use them once just because I had to, and it was down and dirty fast. I needed to, but they have this terrible, terrible habit of becoming hermaphrodites and becoming self-seeding, and that gives me a great deal of concern. And I want to see if you share this concern that if people get cannabis that's been self-pollinated, those seeds have a predisposition to become hermaphrodites more so than the plant it came from.
It can be that trait can be compounded every generation that you use that. Like a lot of Thai varieties, like Thai stuff, they're very vulnerable to having a lot of the intersex flowers, where you have like a few male flowers on an otherwise female plant. And if you keep breeding that again and again and again, it's just going to get worse and worse.
Right. And that's my fear, is that if people don't understand that when they get a seed that's from a feminized plant, that if they regrow that and then it self-pollinates and you regrow those seeds and then it self-pollinates, and people keep doing this, we're going to pollute the gene pool to the point where
you can start using like male pollen from another plant and kind of maybe be able to breed that out. But if you do keep self-pollinating over and over again, especially with strains that are have a predisposition to that, it's just going to get worse. It absolutely will, and eventually you'll just have garbage. You can have a hemp plant, basically.
Yeah, well, what I don't want to happen is for my granddaughter to only be able to get hermaphrodite bud. You know what I mean? Where there's no more males and females, all there is hermaphrodites.
Right. I'm a big believer in just the traditional strains where you have the male and the female. Just because of that reason, you don't want to start having the hermaphrodite problems. Now, that being said, there's nothing wrong with someone buying a pack of them and just growing that first generation and not reproducing that. Because like you said, if you keep doing it, the problem compounds itself.
It does. It does. So you're not a fan of feminized seeds either?
They have their place, if you're for like a marketing point of view, but if you're talking about a breeding program, I wouldn't be using them then. I would want a true strain.
Cut the top, root the top, flower the top, find out what you have for male or female, and then make your mothers.
Oh, I don't do that. I sex them before I clone them and flower them. I don't waste time flowering out males.
No, as soon as I hit 4 nodes, I cut the top off to push the plant out. So I might as well root that top. Then I can
flower that top to see what it is.
Yeah, flower the top, find out what the plant is.
Yeah, but then
you're
wasting flowering space on a male potentially.
Yeah, in some places you're only allowed so many plants. So
in a 4-inch cup, like a 4-inch pot.
Oh, okay. So you're not like putting it into the flower room and taking the space of a.
No. You can do it in a sun blaster, for Christ's sakes.
Well, you can just put it in 12 and 12 for like 5 or 6 days, and then put it back under 18 and 6, and it'll show its sex and go back into veg.
Yeah, but I don't like what it does to the leaves when it goes back to veg, because I end up taking a lot of photos, and those funky leaves just don't look right.
Funky leaves? You get funky leaves?
Yeah, if you have a plant that goes into flower, starts to flower, and then you put it back into veg, it'll start growing single prong leaves.
And a lot of them are twisted and warped.
Yeah, they look like it will totally look like a deformed plant, and then eventually it'll come around and all the leaf structure will be normal again. But it looks.
Yeah.
I've never had that happen.
Really?
I've had that when I've regenerated plants that I liked. Like I used to only be able to get seeds from random weird places and had no idea what I was growing until I grew it. And this is back when I was very first starting. And I would find a plant that I liked and I would want to reproduce it. So I would regenerate it by putting it back under 24-hour light, back to veg, and then taking photos off of it. And yeah, I mean, it'd be all twisted and mutated and weird and stuff, but it does correct in a little bit of time.
Yeah, it does correct itself. It's just that short frame of time. If I've got to get pictures and shit done, it's not one that I can use. So I just don't bother doing it anymore.
Yeah, it's not photogenic. It looks like something that just survived a bachelor party or something.
Yeah, it does. Literally, it looks like crap. I probably got some pictures of one, Ross. I'll send you a picture.
Okay, I'll blow it up, make a poster out of it, and put it up in the store, and I'll put Marcel's plant on the bottom.
No.
I got a picture of a regenerated plant I did in my first book, and it's where I pulled most of the flowering material off and left as many leaves on as I could, and it looked funky as hell, but I was trying to think of something that we could argue over, and there's always the generic subjects of what's the best.
Here's something we can argue over. I heard you mention 24-hour light.
Yeah.
So is that something that is there something you do on a regular basis? Is put plants under 24-hour photo period?
Yeah, I will use a 24-hour period quite a bit, unless I'm trying to save on wear and tear on the equipment or electricity. Especially when I'm in a big hurry, because I have a very aggressive rotation system that I used to like to use, where I would root a clone. I would take a clone, and a month later it was going into the flowering. So I was trying to grow it as fast as I could. Mm-hmm. It would root and do maybe 2 weeks worth of growth before it was thrown into the flowering room. I understand a lot of people like to give the plants a rest period. They don't think that it really grows that much faster after 18 hours of time, but
yeah,
I would just go ahead and do it.
I guess for me, it's always been it's always like what you're trying to do indoors is reproduce what happens outdoors. And the only place in the whole planet where it's light 24 hours a day is at the poles, and cannabis never has grown there. Mm-hmm. So cannabis has evolved over, the hundreds of thousands of years to become a photo period sensitive plant. And by putting it, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, we're debating here, not, that putting it under a 24-hour photo period basically deprives it of its necessary sleep. In other words, it's evolved with a period just like we have, where we sleep and we regenerate on the cellular level and repair cells and do all of that stuff. The plants do the same things, and if you deprive them of that, it would seem to me anyway that you might be depriving them of some of their health on a genetic level.
Right. Yeah, that's a big topic. A lot of people debate that, and I get asked that question a lot. And really, the way I go with it is, it's basically down to what you feel comfortable with. If you want to give the plants a rest period, go right ahead. A lot of people grow under 24-hour light, and they're happy with the results they get. Mm-hmm. So,
Well, there's the power. There's money too. I mean, because that extra 6 hours is going to cost you money.
That's right.
Yeah, it's going to cost you electricity. It's going to cost you wear and tear on the equipment. And it is good to let your equipment have a rest period and cool off, like your lights and ballasts and fans and all that stuff. It really does help it extend the life, the longevity of your equipment, and therefore reduce your overhead costs.
Mhm.
But here's one for you that's kind of a variation on that. When you were talking about auto flowering strains, a lot of people will go with a longer light cycle because for flowering, I mean, they'll flower under 24 hours of light, but a lot of people like to reduce it down to say 20 hours or 18 hours of light and let it go. Have you grown a lot of auto strains?
Well, I have a lot of experience with autoflowers, and I know about. I haven't personally grown them. I wouldn't grow them, but what I can tell you about autoflowers, it's if there was an exception in cannabis, that would be the one, because its roots go to Siberia, where they in fact probably did experience 18 to 20-hour days, where they evolved.
Yeah, and winter's coming so quick. I mean, they put out a few sets of leaves, a few puny flowers, and they're
Right.
gone. The native strains up there, the auto-flowering ones, they do have a little bit of a different growing style with them. They put down that really long tap root, so you need a nice deep container. They do not like to be. They don't like to be pruned at all. They don't like being messed with at all. And when they're finished, they're done, and you can't clone them.
So I guess for a ruderalis, an autoflower that is heavily genetically ruderalis, I would say yes, a longer photo period probably would be a good thing to do, but still not 24 hours. Like 20 hours, they probably would be in their realm of their ancestry.
Right, that's the sweet spot I like for them. Is for most of them is 20 hours.
So I do 18 for autoflowers.
Yeah. There's a little variation from strain to strain, but that's pretty much my general rule of thumb with them is about 20 hours.
Yeah. It does depend on the ratios too, because I mean, if it's a 70-30 ruderalis dominant, you're more likely to use a longer photo period and be okay. But if it's a 70-30, sativa dominant with a little ruderalis in it, you're not going to go that way, or you shouldn't go that way, in my opinion.
Right. Agreed.
Hey, how about that? We're agreeing. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with, like, if you're growing and you enjoy it and you're getting the results you like and you're happy, then you've done nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And that's a wonderful thing about it. I mean, everyone has a different opinion on it, and there's a million different ways to grow, but the end result is if you're enjoying it and you're getting what you want, then more power to you. I tell that to people all the time when they write me questions.
Yeah, it's a plant that can grow in a bucket of mud.
Yeah.
Jack just posted a note on the wall underneath the show post.
Yeah, I was just reading that.
Yeah.
You get out of it what you put into it.
Yes.
So the more that you want to put in and baby that plant and feed it and cuddle it and take care of it.
God. That's a good question from Jack Lloyd.
Yeah. You want to
What's
ask?
Jack's question?
You go ahead.
Okay. Jack Lloyd said, first of all, he's saying it's a good show. He says, ask Professor Lee what he recommends for Canadians who are going to be able to grow 4 plants that have to be under 100 centimeters, which is 3 feet. So basically, they're putting in the regulations. You can grow 4 plants recreationally, but they can't be more than 3 feet tall. Any strain recommendations? Also, what does Professor Lee say about lighting for average Canadians who want to do 4 plants indoors? Should they invest in HIDs or just do it with some cheap lights and cross their fingers?
That is the weirdest rule I've ever heard in my life. They're putting
You're not alone.
That was our sentiments exactly when we heard it.
What the hell is that? I mean, are they going to be like coming into a person's house with a tape measure and go, "Oh, sorry, this is 37 inches tall. We're going to have to take it."
My theory on that, Lee, is that they're going to reissue new truncheons, new billy clubs to the cops that are exactly 3 feet tall, so they can come into your backyard and put their billy club up next to it and go, "Oh, you're an inch taller." Whack.
Yeah, they're probably hollow and come with a pipe bowl attachment too, so they can test your product.
That's right. Yeah. Well, we're going to take the excess off and put it in the bowl.
Okay, Okay, well, fortunately, there are ways to grow your plants smaller. I mean, you can just aggressively bend and prune the hell out of that thing. You can even grow it, vertically along or horizontally across the ground, and it would be under 3 feet tall. So as long as you're, bending it back down, would that be okay? Or are they going to like get a measure or take a measure and run it along the stem and say, oh, it's 12 feet long, so
They worded it. They said 100 centimeters tall, right? They used that word, didn't they, Marcel?
Yeah. So that's why we started teaching people how to do scrogs.
Right.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in scrogs. I think that you can grow a single plant under like 1,000-watt light and harvest over a pound if you just aggressively bend it and prune it out into a big giant scrog.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you can keep it close just by a lot of training. When you're talking about strains, then I can see some auto flowering strains coming in, like a lowrider or something like that. But
you're still only allowed 4 plants.
Yeah.
So if you got 4 lowriders, or you can get 4 sativas and make them into 4 3-foot tall plants that fill your entire backyard.
I don't know. I bet I could take a Durban poison that I could cover an acre with one.
There you go.
This
Well, that's a sativa.
is actually cannabis, that surrounds my swimming pool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, as long as they're not putting a restriction on weight, yeah, you can grow a huge plant underneath 3 feet tall. You just have to really be on top of it with stakes and
you don't know all of the rules. There is a
no,
weight
I don't.
restriction.
I'm not Canadian. I haven't read any rules. I've been reading all the Arkansas rules.
Oh, so one of the rules is that you can carry 30 grams on your person.
That's probably weight on you, but I'm talking about like how much a plant weighs.
Right. But what they're also doing is they're doing some weird calculations, and one of the calculations is that they are equating 1 seed to be equal to 1 gram
of dried flower.
So if you've got a bag of your 30-gram bag, and the cop picks it up and pulls it open and it pulls out 3 or 4 seeds, you're already over your 30-gram limit.
Okay. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody see that's a perfect example of micromanagement from people who don't know the subject matter.
A bingo. Yeah,
exactly.
It never fails to impress me when people that don't know what the hell they're talking about wind up being in charge. And I saw that down here. I was watching the councils sit there and debate things, and they're talking about stuff like, well, these people are going to go out on the street and buy these, vials of CBD oil for $3,500. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? By the way, they look like, no, like 35. They don't know what they're talking about. Like $3,500 for a vial of CBD oil. I'm like, that doesn't exist. I mean, I can go to Colorado and buy a vial of CBD oil for $60.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
We have a part.
Plus, these people look like they're 1950s, MacArthur era judges or something.
We have a number 2 part of questions from Jack.
What was the other part? I can't remember.
Well, there's he's got a follow-up question, I think.
Yes.
A part 2.
Part 2.
Go ahead, Ross. You read better than I do, bud.
Oh, geez, got to go back there. Okay, where the hell is it?
The light?
Here's what his follow-up question is. What about a rotational garden, like in your book, Marijuana 101? Do you feel rotational garden is possible with a 4-plant garden all under 3 feet?
If you're growing indoors, yeah, you can.
2 and 2.
Yeah, you can have a mother plant, and then you just take like a single clone off of it, and basically every month would be a clone. So by month 4, you've harvested and you're introducing a new clone.
However, you can only have 4 plants at a time, though.
Right. So you've got a mother.
Now, once you cut down a plant and it's hanging and drying, you can start a new plant, right?
Right.
Yes.
Right. So go ahead and harvest the first one, then take another clone. I'm just basing that off of it takes 90 days to finish the plant. So say you have a 60-day flowering cycle and 30 days of veg, that's 90 days. So that's essentially what I was doing back in the old days. Is I had a rotation system where I would have a mother plant or 2 or 3 mother plants, take clones off of them, veg those for 1 month, and then I would put them in the flowering garden. And then a month later, I'd do the same thing. A month later, I'd do the same thing. And by then, I'm harvesting the first batch. And it just kept going. So every month, I was harvesting a batch.
But now you've got an accumulation of plants where you've got,
Yeah,
you know,
that was what I was
when you're only allowed 4. And if you're going to, like, first of all, you can't top the plants before you put them into flower and then root those while they're flowering, because now you've got 8 plants.
Right. That's why you'd have to have a mother plant.
And take one clone off the mother plant.
Right, one clone, and that's your vegging plant that's vegging for a month. Then you move it up to the flowering room, and you take another one to veg. So now you have 3, right? By the time the next month comes along, you're ready to harvest the first one. You cut it down, hang it up to dry. The second batch you took is halfway through flowering, and then you've got another one that's vegging, and your mother plant.
And if you're doing scrog too, I guess scrog is a good way to do it, right?
But every 30 days.
But the system is that you're only getting the one skinny plant. I'm sorry. The problem with that, with rotating it that fast, is you're only getting like a single cola plant. You really don't have time to branch it out or to crop it or maxi crop it or anything like that. Now, if you slow it down to where what would be easier, I guess what would be easier is to have a mother plant, take 3 clones off of it, and start to finish them. Root them, veg them, flower them, harvest them, and then start again if you're using a mother plant.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, at that point, you might as well just be buying seeds and just starting a fresh batch of seeds every time.
And just using feminized seeds, right? And that's what's going to happen. It's going to drive everybody to use feminized seeds.
Or auto flowers.
And what terrifies me about having like only a small genetic availability with just a few big producers is you get what they give you, and if they all decide to go genetically modified, then what are you going to do?
Well, is not a feminized seed, is that not the definition of genetically modified?
No, genetically modified is where you use something like a virus to introduce genetic material from another species or another
GMO.
animal or something.
That's actually GMO. So that's
GMO.
Genetically modified would be turning carrots from the original purple to orange. Right? Carrots originally were orange or purple.
I've got varieties of carrots that are all different colors. They're beautiful.
Yeah. But they changed them to orange. The Dutch did that, but that was genetically modifying. Feminizing a seed would be genetically modifying. Putting in animal proteins into a cannabis seeds would be genetically modified organism.
Yeah, like if I took
that would be the GMO shit.
Like if I took a gene from a shark that prevents the shark from getting cancer, and I injected it into an egg and fertilized that to make a human that's genetically modified to not get cancer because they now have a gene from a shark floating around in their DNA, that's a genetically modified human or genetically modified organism. Breeding a plant where you're taking pollen from that plant or that plant species or its strain and you're reproducing it sexually, that's not genetically modified. That's just breeding.
So you don't think that the methods they're using to force feminize or to force, like, for example, I read a bit of your book today, like 100 and something pages. And, and at one point you were talking about that particular aspect, which has completely gone out of my mind.
It's where they take an acid, like I'm going to butcher this pronunciation, but it's like gilberyllic. Can't remember.
Yes,
gabberellic
acid.
No, I'm talking about in your book. Sorry, that reminded me.
Those are hormones.
In your book,
those are hormones.
You talked about a shorter photo period where if you put a plant under 7 or 8 hours of light per day, it will change sex.
Yeah, you can. The environment, if you stress a plant, you can quite often get hermaphrodites. Anyone who was like growing and left the door open and some light pollution got in, enough times, they've done that.
Right.
I had a friend that grew a fine crop of seeds that way.
So we've got gibberellic acid or reduced photo period. Do we consider that as genetic modification or don't we?
No, genetic modification is very specific where you're introducing DNA that doesn't belong there and you're injecting it surgically into the DNA structure of whatever the subject is. But when you use something like the acid to introduce hormones, you're triggering the plant to produce the flowers that it normally wouldn't produce. That ability is there. It's just being activated.
Okay.
But
so you're talking about physically taking out genes and splicing in new genes as being the definition of genetically modified organisms, as opposed to stressing a plant into doing something it doesn't want to do.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think stressing a plant would be genetically modifying.
Yeah. What?
I don't think stressing a plant would constitute genetically modified.
Right, because you're not actually altering the DNA or the chromosomes. You're just forcing it to do something that it normally wouldn't do, but it has the ability to. Like when a frog switches sexes, because there's not enough males or females in the environment, some of them will switch sex and then start having babies.
I almost think cannabis does that at times.
It's one of its defense mechanisms that's built in. If it's in a stressed out environment and it's not getting pollinated, it'll pollinate itself and try to keep that species going.
And hermaphrodites have been in the cannabis genome forever. I remember I grew a plant back in the 70s, and I grew it in my window, in my bedroom kind of thing, before there was ever any artificial lighting or anything. And when it flowered, one branch was female, one branch was male, another branch female, another branch male. It was literally like that. Each branch was a different sex.
That's crazy.
Weirdest thing I ever seen.
One of that reminds me of a plant that I saw when I was in Denver. I was hanging out with some guys from Black Dog. I'm on like a first name basis with the owners. Again, they don't pay me to endorse them. I just really like these guys and what they do. But I was hanging out at their booth at the Cup, and they had a mother plant where they had grafted on different strains onto the same plant. And I think the one that I was looking at had that they were flowering at the Cup had 5 or 6 strains on it, but they showed me one back at their facility that had, I think, 9 or 10 different strains on it. And that's a great way if you're only allowed to have a certain small number of plants, but you like variety. If you were able to have something like that, then every crop you could take a clone from a different branch and have a different strain.
Yep. And that's grafting, and that's not as hard to do as people think.
Yeah. Some people have the knack for it, and some people really do not.
True.
But, it's something you can learn and get really good at. Yeah.
Yeah, and they do it with apple trees. I've got an apple tree in my front yard. It's got 4 different varieties of apples on the one tree.
Oh yeah, I was looking at a cherry tree in a nursery, thinking I would like to have this. It has 4 different varieties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty cool because last fall we picked 4 different kinds of apples off of it. It was awesome.
If you look on YouTube, there's one that's called the 40 fruit tree, and it's a guy who has grafted 40 different varieties of stone fruit onto the same tree.
Yeah, I saw that. That is awesome, actually.
Yeah, he's put them around like universities and stuff, and it's a learning process. He said when he first was doing it, he had a plant or one of the trees at a college, and when it first started flowering, only one side of it was flowering, the other side looked dead. So then he learned I got to mix them around a bit for aesthetics.
They got to look good too, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's a good thing to do if you are growing in an area that has a limited number that you can do, 4, 6 plants, whatever. If you have a mother plant with different varieties on it, then you can rotate that and enjoy a few different things, or something new every month or two.
And you know that when you're facing a 4-plant limit and you're going to do a scrog, having different genetics all on one stalk kind of makes sense, doesn't it?
That would be cool, actually.
Yeah, I mean, if you lose it's with cannabis, like what you're talking about with monoculture, we deal with monoculture a lot. A lot of people clone, and you'll look at a garden and it's the exact same clones or strains all the way across, and they're all beautiful and identical, and you're going to harvest them all at the same time, and it's super convenient. But if something gets in there that they're vulnerable to, it'll just plow right through them. And having a lot of diversity is great. I was up at a facility called the Craft Medical Facility, and I was standing in their rooms, and I was looking at dozens of different varieties all in the same room, and it was gorgeous, purples and reds and greens everywhere you could see. And I thought, well, if something gets in here and wiped out all of one strain, well, then they're probably going to be okay with some of the others. But then again, if something got in there bad enough and was destroying plants, they might just scrap the whole room to be safe.
Yeah, of course, just the process of grafting does expose the plant's inner pythium, I guess, to potential disease just in doing that. It's like transplanting a new hand onto somebody's arm. There's a chance of infection, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it has to be surgically sterilized conditions.
Right.
You need to be using new stuff. You need to have it sterilized. You can't be using some rusty butter knife you used to use to pick out the toenail fungus. You really have to have good stuff.
We don't want any toenail fungus on our canvas.
Now, on that note, let's listen to some Hosni Bronx, Strong Life.
All right.
And we'll be right back. And we'll close out the show. This is the 420 radio show.
Awesome.
And we'll be back.
We'll be back.
Man, have you been to Canadays yet? Canadays, Campbellford's premier cannabis culture shop at 19 Bridge Street West. They've got bongs, oil rigs, grinders, and papers. Everything you need for consumption. They've got seeds, soil, nutrients, and dome trays too. Everything you need for cultivation. Get top quality seeds from top suppliers like Canuck, Crop King, and wholesaler Nexus. Canadays. They've got all kinds of awesome cannabis novelties, clothing, and apparel. I know, right? It's a lot more than just a bong shop. Interested in gaining legal access? Canadays can help. They're a PACE information center. You know, people advocating cannabis education? Come by the shop and check it out. 19 Bridge Street West, Campbellford. Canadays. Have your say without saying a word. Canadays.ca.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Babylon
people, you have to survive. Yeah, you must rebuild you and make your own way. You must not give up. The beginning of the revolt will start. We need to follow our true destiny. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know, whoa, why my people live this life. I don't know, whoa, why my people live this life. The obstacle we face, yeah, is Babylon. The world is a good place, yeah, for our freedom. You take everything, you don't breathe anything, yeah, yeah. It's young life, all anti-dread. We must believe in a magical, powerful force that unite us, and not just these people stay speechless again. We don't want to talk, no, it's time to fight, yeah. We start talking. Babylon made you suffer. Babylon made you suffer. Babylon made you suffer.
Come on, Russ.
Boss, what happened, dude? You
Good
were
job,
saying-
man. I was singing the Babylon, man. You just didn't hear me.
Anyways, we're going to continue our chat with Professor Lee and the other two boobs that are here.
Gotta have two.
I do want to make sure we've got 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure that you talk about your new book and do some plugs.
Yay! All right. Well, I'm currently working on a new book, but until it comes out, that you can still purchase Marijuana 101, Professor Lee's Introduction to Growing Grade A Bud, on Amazon and in good bookstores near you. You can also read my Q&A question column in magazines such as Weed World magazine, or if you like German and you speak German and like to read in German, you can read Grow Magazine out of Germany, and you can see what I look like in German, which is always fun when I get my issue in the mail and I read it and go, I don't know what I'm saying, but it looks good.
They have somebody translate it for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can look at what the articles are and figure it out, but they're off by like a month or so. Like I'll send an article to one magazine, and then like a couple months later, that same article will be in the other one.
Now,
so I kind of figured it out from the. I speak enough German to know what the titles probably mean.
They translate it for you. Now, is it an exact translation, or does it lose something in the translation?
There's always a loss in translation. There are some words in German that don't exist in English, and vice versa. But from what I can tell, it does pretty darn good. It's pretty close. Good. Almost verbatim. But yeah, I guess if I just have a few minutes, I just wanted to I guess talk about medical condition in Arkansas and what it means for my family.
You go right ahead, man. We got 15 minutes or so left. We can.
Cool. Okay. So like I was saying, we voted in medical marijuana in November for Arkansas. And we were very happy to get it because last June, my wife finally decided that she was so sick that she was going to go on disability. She wasn't able to work anymore. And we were waiting to see if the state would pass the medical or not. If it didn't, we were going to sell everything we own, go in debt, and move to like Washington State or Colorado or someplace and become medical marijuana refugees. But fortunately, it passed, and so we're toughing it out for this year. And we're very grateful for that. So I want to thank everyone in the state of Arkansas that voted that way. The stuff really does work. It's not a gimmick. My wife is extremely sick, and sometimes I'm able to take her to places like Colorado for a cup or something if I'm covering a story. And for that brief period of time when my wife is able to actually use cannabis medically, she's able to get off of the dozens of medications that she's on and I get my wife back, and it's wonderful. And I'm just counting the months until that happens all the time here, because right now it's kind of rare to be able to make a trip like that and to get to make her feel so good. She has a bunch of medical problems, everything from fibromyalgia, chronic pain. She has a paralyzed digestive tract, all kinds of arthritis and stuff. And she's on all these medications, and half the time the medications are sometimes worse than the disease.
Yeah.
She takes tons of opioids, and then she takes medications to deal with the side effects of those. But when she uses medical cannabis, she gets off of just about everything. I mean, she still has to take insulin for the diabetes. Her pancreas got destroyed a few years ago, and now she's insulin dependent. But short of that, the pain is gone, or she tells me that either the pain's gone or she's so high she doesn't care about the pain.
Yeah.
Either way is fine for her. And so I'm really looking forward to it being the norm here and to spreading. And I think that if you live in an area that doesn't have any medical, it doesn't have recreational or anything, keep fighting, because it's coming like a big, giant green tsunami.
I got a couple of posts here from Jack, who asked when can we expect the second edition of Marijuana 101, and will your state medical program play a role in your next book? And then he's got another one here. Is
never shuts up. Go ahead.
No, he just keeps going. What do you think about hydroponics for a grower with only 4 plants?
It would work.
Yeah, you think it'd be worthy of it? Like, would it be worth it?
I mean, it depends. Growing hydroponically or growing in soil, it's all up to you. Hydroponics is faster, and you can scale it up or down. You can have an individual hydroponic system for every plant you're growing, or you can have it for the mother plant, the vegetative plants, and then another one for the flowering plants. When I was using a rotation system, I had 2 hydroponic systems. One that was producing my vegetative plants, like the mother and the clones, and the other one that was flowering. And it worked out perfectly fine because I was using a smaller system and it wasn't too complicated. I went for very simple and straightforward. But that being said, I mean, if you want to grow in soil, it's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's a little bit slower, and it does have some advantages, like you've got a buffer against the plants drying out because, a pump failed or something.
Yeah.
So that's perfectly fine. Hydroponics will work in virtually any situation. You can grow 1 plant with it if you want.
I'm thinking a recirculating deep water culture system, which would produce normally a large plant, but if you're scrogging, it would fill a lot of space. 4 plants in a deep water culture recirculating system would be awesome for scrog.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've seen some really impressive stuff where people were growing pounds using only a few plants with a deep water recirculating system. Just basically buckets and pumps in a reservoir.
Yep.
I think his other question was, when can you expect the book, and would medical play any role in that? And the answer is, I'm writing it as fast as I can. I've run into some problems. Obviously, I'm not, I don't have any examples that I'm growing myself at the moment. So it's really hard to get pictures.
Yeah. Come up here. There's a lot of people that'll let you do that.
Where I'm working, or a dispensary, then obviously I would have access to be able to make things happen a lot faster. I mean, we can, like with my book, Marijuana 101, we actually hired photographers to do a lot of photo shoots and go through things, but that cuts into my royalties. So I'm being kind of greedy. I'm trying to do as much of it as I can by myself.
Don't blame you.
But the writing aspect's coming along nicely. I mean, it's a lot of material, and there's so much has happened in the past few years. You have so many more new systems and lights and stuff. Back when I first started growing, there weren't plasma lights and even just like a ceramic metal highlight was, you couldn't get your hands on one. But now there's all this new stuff. And I actually had written an entire section on LED growing based off the material I had, and then some new lights came out that were even better, and I've had to adjust and kind of rewrite for those.
LEC?
LEDs.
No, LECs, or is that the other one you're talking about?
The light emitting plasma?
No, they're ceramic.
Oh yeah, the metal ceramic.
Yeah.
Highlights. Yeah. There's so many. I'm sorry.
I know there are. There's a bunch hitting the market now.
And now you have induction lighting.
It's like talking about government agencies. It's an alphabet soup of initials.
It is, and I think it's going to get more complicated as we go, and it's going to, people are going to be relying on the people like us for guidance when it comes to these things, because they really don't. The average person doesn't understand what all this technology means in the long run, and I guess it's up to us to help them.
Exactly, and each light has different results. That's one of the things I like about LEDs, is that you can custom tailor the spectrum to get the maximum results possible. When you're dealing with a good quality company that introduces the right amount of UV light and IR light to help stimulate terpene and trichome production, that's a big advantage over like a cheaper one that just puts some red blue lights together. So, you look at a technology, but then you also have to look at who's the quality producer of that technology and what's a ripoff, what to look for, how to avoid pitfalls, that sort of thing.
And that's been a big problem with LEDs.
Yeah.
Is that I always get people coming in and saying, hey, I saw this LED on Amazon and it's like $300 and I'm going to get one and grow a whole shitload of weed. And it's like, no. No. No.
Yeah,
you're not going to pay $300 for an LED from Amazon and grow good cannabis. Okay. I'm sorry, you're not.
Yeah. Well, they had a bad rap to begin with. You had so many cheap things coming on. I bought a cheap panel to tear it apart to see what the inside looked like, and it was like recycled computer parts and hot glue.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I go up and I see a real high quality one. I'm like, oh, that's a huge heat sink. It's got great fans. It's solid. It's really, you're getting the actual production out of it. And when it comes to LEDs, you get a lot of confusion with the wattages, because there's the potential wattage and then the actual wattage from the wall. And you can have the reason that they don't run LEDs at their maximum wattage is because they'll burn them out prematurely. They won't last as long. So they usually only run it about half as much. Say you have like a 3-watt LED bulb, they're only really putting about 1.5 watts in there. But they'll still market it saying, oh, this is a 1,000-watt model. But in reality, it only runs like 600 watts from the wall. And
that's true. And I find with LEDs, it comes down to you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
If you're going to put $2,000 into an LED, you're probably going to get a good product and good results.
Mm-hmm.
But if you pay,
that's why I did a lot of research into that, and that's why I hang out with those guys in Boulder so much, because I really think that they probably produce the best one. Their new light, it has a 6.5 by 6.5 flowering footprint.
Nice. That's a nice. How many watts is that one?
It's a true 1,000 watts from the wall.
A true 1,000.
True 1,000 watts from the wall. I think it's like 1050 from the wall, because it's like running the fans and stuff in there as well. But it actually uses 1,000 watts, and it produces a 6.5 by 6.5 footprint with enriched IR and UV light.
That's nice. Yeah,
it's really nice. Even their older model had a 5.5 by 5.5 footprint.
What does one of those go for?
Yes, I was just going to say, if they can get the price down, it'd be great.
What do they go for?
It's under $3,000. I think it's like 2.5 the last time I looked.
Yeah.
But the technology is getting cheaper. When I was first looking at them, I think they had like 4,000 or 3,000 watt or dollar lights.
Yep.
And now the price is coming down with the technology. It's like VCRs back in the 80s. They were $500, and then a few years ago they were giving them away with cereal.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Yep.
But I think that's probably got more future in it. Things like plasma and things like LEDs have a lot more potential in the next 10 to 20 years than something like an older technology like high pressure sodium, which has pretty much reached its end game. I don't see where it can evolve anymore. People have tweaked with the spectrum. People have, introduced double-ended models, but you're not eking out bigger advances with it.
No, and you're not improving the end product. But what you are doing is increasing the price. Like, for example, LECs, LEDs, and the double-endeds, one of their selling points is, well, you use less hydro. Well, yes, you use less electricity, but your upfront cost for the product is, in kind of astronomical. So any cost savings on electricity is going to be offset by the purchase price.
It's always disappointing how inefficient they are. I mean, even with your best HPS light, it's still producing only 25% of that. Only 25% of that electricity is going to producing light. The other 75% is going to produce heat, which you then have to deal with by having air conditioning units and very aggressive ventilation systems and stuff. When you're dealing with something, say, like an LED technology, it's quite a different story.
Yeah.
It's putting about 90% of its energy into making light, and it runs much cooler. Plus, you can run the room warmer. You can actually be up to like 84 degrees with a really good LED system, as opposed to trying to get it down in the 70s with an high pressure sodium light.
Because of the radiant heat, right?
Right. I'm talking about the surface temperature of like the leaf.
Right.
What temperature the leaf actually is.
Yep.
That it could be much higher underneath an LED than a high pressure sodium.
Right.
At least a quality LED.
We're gonna have to have you back. And
I'd love to get back. I'll check my schedule and see when I have another Friday off.
Don't wait another 5 years, bud. Don't wait another 5 years, okay?
No.
Well, it's been a stimulating discussion. It's the kind of discussion that I love to have and pretty much have every day. So, I talk cannabis all the time, and there's nothing I like to do more.
And I just want to send a shout out to one of the best damn cannabis lawyers in Toronto. If you need a lawyer, you better call Jack.
You don't know Jack.
You need to know Jack.
You're trouble, you better know Jack.
I've been catching up on my Better Call Saul, and I just had to. Sorry, Jack.
Jack,
hey, it's all good,
Jack. I always
it's all good, right? Next
good,
week,
man.
I don't know if we're going to do a show next week because I'm hoping to go down to Lift with Al and broadcast on Saturday. So we'll see.
What are you doing Friday night down there?
I don't know I don't know where I'm going to be on Friday night, so I'm leaving it loose.
Is it the Green Market thing?
Well, no, because there's stuff going on at Lift Friday night, isn't there?
Yeah, but that's the corporate shit.
Oh,
that's pricey. The media pass won't get me into that.
Oh,
see, Marcel would want to go to that one.
Yeah, well, as a matter of fact, I would.
The best times I ever had is where I had nothing planned at all.
There you go. I got nothing planned.
That's a good plan right there.
That's what I'm doing tomorrow, and in about 10 minutes after this. Nothing at all. Lee, always a pleasure. It's been a long time since we've talked. Like I said, we'll have to have you on again. Whenever you got a free Friday, just let me know. We got one more song that we're going to listen to, and that's another Royal Kush band because I like them. And then we're going to say nighty booze. Nighty booze.
We'll say nighty booze now.
Oh, peace, love, and hippie shit too.
Yep,
Chris
peace, love, and hippie
Chris
shit.
Isn't here.
Yeah, Chris isn't here. Yeah, but his news is.
His news is,
and it will be triggering in about 15 seconds so that you're going to hear the news again after the new news, this week's news. As soon as I'm just waiting here, and here we go.
Push a button and we all disappear.
And
hi, everybody.
There we go. And we'll see you next week. See ya.
Peace out.
Peace.
Good evening. I'm Coulter Wonkite. I'm already into the 420, damn it.
Pain in my gut, nothing too much. I guess I've been here before. Just feeling kinda hungry, so I started wondering why my stomach was bored. I know I ate at supper time. I had a 20-ounce steak and a box of wine. Could have been the hot box that we had in the car. I didn't even think I was hungry, but I ate a bag of chips in the dark. Eat what I find, bad munchies. Food on my mind, fried chicken. When the bowl is gonzo, I'ma have a ponzo. Wake and bake, in the morning like Alonzo. Me and Mary Jane are Lone Ranger and Tonto. She comes to my rescue when she's holding a taco. After a blaze, White Widow and Warlock. I'm too dad to drive and I'm stuck like a doorstop. I'm out in the yard, barbecuing a pork chop. I'm so parched and I'm dying for more pop. Storm chips and warm hits. From the bonger nail, it's getting me tore quick. Won't be long before I'm hitting the store. It's what I do before smoking, eating some more shit. Call Bud Buddy for new green, that's the routine. Ask what I need, my bud it is blue dream. My blood it ain't too clean, now running for poutine. The weed in my bag is the only weight that I'm losing. Eat what I find, bad munchies. Food on my mind, fried chicken.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio website.
Sounds like a cool website.
Yeah, it's alright. Oh, wait, I might have it.
You might have it.
You're listening to Lifestyle Radio.
Tune into the Pace Radio Show and catch Kim Cooper, Debbie Stoll-Skiffin, or Allison Murden, along with myself, Al Grant, as we talk to Canadian and international cannabis advocates who are working hard to help patients and to end cannabis prohibition. Catch us live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, here at lifestyleradio.ca.
You're listening to
You like
Lifestyle
music,
Radio.
you like weed, well we gonna be good friends indeed. This is not much I like more than smoking trees. They'll make you dance the do-si-do and teach you how the chiba grows. Smoke a bowl on the 420 radio show. On Lifestyle Radio.
So what are you doing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why not?
Trying to get on this Lifestyle Radio